Today I want to share my incredible story about how English took me to my dream, my passion, and my success. If you have big dreams to become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a businessman, or anything great, then you need English 100%. There is no doubt about it. English is spoken by 1.5 billion people around the world. It is the language of travel, business, and the internet. If you don't speak English, you might miss big opportunities, like getting a better job, making international friends, or enjoying movies and reading books in their original language. But don't worry. You can start learning today and become part of this global community. If I can learn English and achieve my dream, you can too. My name is Anna, and I'm from Germany. I was born in a small town. My family was not rich, not poor, just middle class. We had enough to live, but we couldn't afford luxuries. My parents worked very hard every day. Since I was a little girl, I had only one dream: to become a doctor. I still remember the moment that changed my life. I was 10 years old. I was in the hospital because my little brother was very sick. He had a high fever, and we were scared. My parents were crying. Then the doctor came. He was calm, confident, and full of kindness. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, I will take care of your son." At that moment, I looked at him with so much respect. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to help people, to give hope, to bring smiles. From that day, I decided that one day, I would become a doctor. Years passed. I grew older, and my dream grew with me. I studied hard at school, always thinking about that moment in the hospital. I imagined myself wearing a white coat, helping people, saving lives. When I turned 18, I was finally ready to apply for medical school. But when I checked the requirements, I discovered something shocking. Most of the medical programs, research papers, and entrance exams required English. Almost every top medical university used English for their textbooks and lectures. I felt lost. I realized that all my hard work might not be enough if I didn't know English. So, I decided to learn it. At first, I thought it would be easy. But when I started, it felt impossible. I bought a few grammar books and watched English videos on YouTube. The teachers spoke so fast that I couldn't understand anything. I memorized words but forgot them the next day. I tried reading English stories but gave up after 2 pages. After months of studying, I was still struggling. My pronunciation was terrible, and I couldn't speak even simple sentences. I felt embarrassed when people asked me to say something in English. One evening, I sat in my room crying. I felt hopeless. I thought maybe my dream of becoming a doctor was too big for someone like me. My father saw me and sat beside me. He said, "Anna, I see how hard you are trying. But maybe you need to learn English in a different way, in a place where people speak it every day." At first, I didn't understand. Then he continued, "You need to go to a country where English is everywhere. That's the best way to learn." I was shocked. Go to another country? But that's impossible, I said. He smiled gently. Nothing is impossible when it comes to your dreams. Over the next few months, my parents started planning everything. They talked to relatives, searched online for schools, and finally found an English language school in Australia. It was expensive, but my father said, "This is not a cost. It's an investment in your future." My parents sold our old car, some furniture, and even part of our land. They sacrificed so much just to give me a chance. I didn't know whether to cry or to smile. The day I left Germany, I hugged my mother tightly. She said, "We believe in you, Anna. Learn English. Become a doctor. Make us proud." When the plane took off, I looked down at my country disappearing beneath the clouds. My heart was full of fear and hope at the same time. I didn't know anyone in Australia. I had never spoken English outside of class. But I knew one thing. This was my chance to change my life. When I arrived, everything felt strange. The weather was hot, people spoke so fast, and I couldn't understand what anyone said. Even ordering food at a restaurant was scary. I smiled and nodded a lot, pretending I understood. On my first day at the language school, I sat quietly in class. The teacher asked everyone to introduce themselves. When it was my turn, I stood up and said slowly, "My name is Anna. I am from Germany. I want to be a doctor." My voice was shaking, but everyone clapped. That small moment gave me courage. I met students from all over the world: Japan, Brazil, Egypt, India, and many others. We all had one goal: to learn English. Some wanted better jobs, some wanted to travel, and some, like me, had big dreams for their future. Every day was a new challenge. I had to think in English, write in English, and speak in English. I made many mistakes, but my teachers were kind and patient. They always said, "Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are part of learning." At night, I studied until midnight. I repeated words, watched English shows, and practiced pronunciation in front of the mirror. Some days I cried because I missed home. But every time I wanted to give up, I remembered my father's words: "Nothing is impossible when it comes to your dreams." After 3 months, I started to notice progress. I could understand my teacher better, talk to classmates, and even help new students who didn't understand much English. I was finally feeling proud of myself. It wasn't easy, but step by step, I was moving closer to my dream. And that's how my journey began. A young girl from a small town in Germany who left everything behind to chase her dream, powered by courage, love, and one language: English. When I first arrived in Australia, everything felt like a dream that was beautiful but also very hard. Every day was a test of my strength. I had to start a new life in a new country, speak a new language, and find my way in a place where I knew no one. At first, I felt lonely. I missed my family, my friends, even the smell of our home in Germany. Every night, I video called my parents. My mom always said, "Be strong, Anna. We believe in you." My dad just smiled proudly and said, "Remember why you're there." At the language school, my English slowly started to improve. I learned how to make sentences, how to ask questions, and how to understand people when they spoke fast. My teacher, Mrs. Brown, always encouraged me. She said, "You're doing great, Anna. One day, you will speak English like a native." Her words gave me hope. After 1 year, I completed my English course and passed the IELTS test. It was one of the happiest days of my life. I called my parents and shouted, "I did it. I passed." They both cried with happiness. But I knew this was just the beginning. The next step was much harder: getting into a medical university in Australia. I started preparing for the entrance exams. The books were thick, the words were difficult, and everything was in advanced English. Sometimes I had to read one paragraph 3 times just to understand it. But I didn't give up. I studied day and night. In the morning, I went to a part-time job in a small cafe. I worked as a waitress to pay for my rent and food. After work, I rushed to the library and studied for hours. Sometimes, I was so tired that I fell asleep on my books. There were nights when I cried silently because it all felt too much: studying, working, and living alone. But every time I thought about quitting, I remembered my parents' sacrifice. They sold everything to give me this chance. I couldn't disappoint them. One rainy evening, as I was walking home from work, I stopped and looked at the city lights. The streets were wet, the air smelled of rain, and people were rushing everywhere. In that moment, I realized something. Every person in this world is fighting for something. Everyone has a dream, a goal, or a reason to wake up every morning. And my reason was clear: I wanted to become a doctor. A few months later, I took the medical entrance exam. My hands were shaking as I entered the exam hall. I had studied so hard for this day. When I opened the paper, the questions looked impossible. I took a deep breath and said to myself, "You can do this, Anna." After finishing the exam, I wasn't sure how well I did. I went home, made some tea, and sat quietly. For the next few weeks, I waited for the results. Days felt like months. Then one morning, I received an email. My heart started beating fast. I opened it and read, "Congratulations. You have been accepted into the University of Sydney, Faculty of Medicine." I couldn't believe my eyes. I screamed with joy. Tears ran down my face. I immediately called my parents. My father answered, and when I told him, he said softly, "I told you, Anna. Nothing is impossible when it comes to your dreams." That moment was one of the happiest in my life. But I also knew this was not the end, it was just the next step. University life was exciting, but also very challenging. All the classes were in English. The professors spoke fast, and the medical terms were complicated. I had to read hundreds of pages every week. Sometimes I felt lost. I remember one day after class, I went to my professor and said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand everything you say in lectures." He smiled kindly and said, "That's okay, Anna. You don't have to be perfect in English to be a great doctor. What matters is your heart and your determination." Those words touched me deeply. They gave me new energy to keep going. Every day, I worked harder. I spent hours in the library, learning both medicine and English at the same time. I used to read medical books with a dictionary next to me. Whenever I didn't understand a word, I looked it up and wrote it down. Slowly, I became stronger. My English improved, my confidence grew, and my dreams started to feel closer and closer. One day, during a class about human anatomy, our professor said, "Next week, we'll visit the hospital for practical training." My heart jumped. I was finally going to step inside a real hospital as a medical student, just like the doctor I had seen when I was 10 years old. When I entered the hospital for the first time, I saw patients, nurses, and doctors walking quickly from one room to another. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. I felt nervous but excited. A doctor smiled at me and said, "Welcome to your new world, Anna." That day, I realized that all the pain, all the hard work, and all the nights of study were worth it. But life wasn't suddenly easy. I still had to balance work and study. I still missed my family. Sometimes, I failed small tests or forgot words during presentations. But I learned something important. Success doesn't mean never failing. It means never giving up. By the end of my first year, I was one of the top students in my class. My teachers noticed my improvement and praised my hard work. I had finally started to believe that I could become a real doctor. Not someday, but soon. At night, I often looked out of my window and whispered, "Thank you, Mom and Dad. I'm doing it. I'm really doing it." Oh. When I entered the hospital as a medical student, it felt like walking into a dream that I had imagined since I was 10 years old. The white walls, the sound of footsteps, the smell of medicine. Everything felt so real, so serious, and so important. But soon, I realized that being a medical student was not easy. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done. Every day was full of new challenges, pressure, and emotions. The first time I saw a patient, I was nervous. My hands were cold, my voice was shaking. The doctor who supervised us said, "Anna, can you take the patient's history?" I nodded, even though I was terrified. I went to the patient and said, "Hello, my name is Anna. I am a medical student." The old man smiled and said, "It's okay, dear. Take your time." That simple smile gave me confidence. I asked him questions, listened carefully, and wrote everything down. When I finished, the doctor said, "Good job, Anna. You have a kind heart, and that's the most important thing in medicine." Those words stayed with me forever. In the beginning, I made many mistakes. Sometimes I forgot medical terms or mixed up words in English. Once, I said, "I will inject you with happiness," instead of, "I will inject you with the medicine." The patient laughed so hard, and I turned red with embarrassment. But I also laughed. because I knew every mistake was helping me grow. Life at the hospital was full of stories. Some were sad, some were inspiring. There were patients who cried, and there were others who smiled even when they were in pain. I learned that medicine is not just about science. It's about heart, compassion, and connection. There was one patient I'll never forget, a little girl named Lily. She was only 7 years old and had a serious heart problem. Every time I saw her, she was smiling, even when she was weak. One day, I asked her, "Why are you always smiling?" She said softly, "Because when I smile, my mom stops crying." That moment changed me. I realized that being a doctor is not only about treating the body, it's about healing the heart. I worked hard every single day. I spent hours studying, practicing, and learning from my teachers. I stayed in the hospital until late at night, helping nurses, observing surgeries, and writing notes. My English got better because I used it all the time with doctors and patients. But there were also hard days. Days when I felt tired, homesick, and emotionally broken. Sometimes I failed small exams. Sometimes I cried in my room after a long shift. There were moments when I doubted myself and thought, maybe I'm not strong enough for this. But then, I remembered my journey, the small town in Germany, my parents' sacrifices, my tears while learning English, and the promise I made to myself. So I kept going. During my 3rd year, I was given a chance to assist in a real surgery for the first time. I couldn't believe it. I stood next to the doctor, wearing gloves and a mask, my heart beating fast. When the surgery began, everything went silent. The doctor said, "Anna, hold this instrument steady." I did exactly as he said. After the operation, he smiled and said, "You did well. You have good hands." That was one of the proudest moments of my life. Each year, I became more confident, both as a student and as a person. I could now speak English fluently. I could explain complex medical ideas clearly. I could talk with patients from different countries and understand their feelings. My friends often asked me, "Anna, how did you become so good at English?" I always answered, "Because I never stopped trying." After many years of hard work, I finally reached my final year of medical school. We had to take one last big exam, a test that would decide if we were ready to become real doctors. The night before the exam, I couldn't sleep. I was nervous, but I also felt ready. I looked out of my window at the city lights and whispered, "You've come a long way, Anna. Don't stop now." The next morning, I entered the exam hall with a calm heart. I answered every question carefully. When the exam ended, I closed my eyes and smiled. I knew I had done my best. A few weeks later, the results came out. I opened my email and saw one word that made my heart explode with joy. Congratulations. I had passed. I was now officially a doctor. I screamed, cried, and laughed all at the same time. I called my parents immediately. My father picked up, and I said, "Dad, I did it. I'm a doctor." He was silent for a few seconds, and then I heard his voice trembling. "We are so proud of you, Anna. You made our dream come true." That moment was the happiest moment of my life. Everything, all the struggles, the tears, the loneliness, the hard work, it all made sense. That little girl who once cried over English grammar books was now a doctor in Australia, helping people and changing lives. When I put on my white coat for the first time, I stood in front of the mirror and smiled. I saw not just a doctor. I saw a dream that came true through hard work, love, and faith. And I said to myself, if I can do this, anyone can. My first day as a real doctor was unforgettable. I woke up early, looked at my white coat, and felt something deep in my heart, a mix of pride, happiness, and responsibility. I wasn't just Anna from a small German town anymore. I was Dr. Anna, ready to help, ready to serve, ready to make a difference. When I entered the hospital, the same smell of medicine and sound of footsteps surrounded me. But this time, it felt different. This time, I wasn't a student. I was the one people came to for help. I met my first patient, a young woman who was scared and in pain. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said softly, "Please, help me." I smiled and said, "You're safe now. I will do everything I can." In that moment, I remembered the doctor from my childhood, the one who had said the same words to my parents when my little brother was sick. Now I was in his place. It felt like life had come full circle. Every day, I met new people from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds. Some spoke English perfectly, others just a few words. But we always found a way to understand each other. That's the power of English. It connects hearts. Sometimes I worked long hours, even overnight. My feet hurt. My eyes were tired. But when I saw a patient smile and say thank you, doctor, all the pain disappeared. It's true. Helping others is one of the greatest joys in life. But being a doctor also teaches you about life and death. There were days when I lost patience, and it broke my heart. I would go home and cry quietly. But then, I would remind myself, even if I couldn't save everyone, I could still give hope, comfort, and care. And that's powerful too. Years passed. I grew more confident, more skilled, more compassionate. I started giving small talks in schools, sharing my story with students who had big dreams but felt limited by their English. I told them, if a small-town girl like me can learn English and become a doctor in Australia, you can do anything you set your mind to. Many young people wrote me messages saying, "Anna, your story inspired me to learn English," or "Because of you, I didn't give up." Those messages became my motivation to keep sharing my story. One day, I received an invitation to speak at an international medical conference. Doctors from all over the world were coming to share their knowledge and experiences. If I hadn't learned English, I would never have had this chance. On the day of the conference, I stood on the stage in front of hundreds of people. My heart was beating fast, but I remembered everything I had been through. The struggles, the failures, the sacrifices. I smiled and began my speech. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Anna, and I'm here to share my journey, how English helped me follow my dream and become a doctor." When I finished, the audience stood up and clapped. Some people even had tears in their eyes. I realized that words, especially in English, have the power to inspire the world. After the conference, I traveled to different countries, helping in poor areas, working with international organizations, and teaching children basic health care. Everywhere I went, English helped me connect with people, understand their stories, and make a difference. One time, I went to a small village in Africa. The people there didn't have many doctors, and they were so happy to see us. I treated many children with small infections and helped mothers learn how to take care of their babies. At the end of the day, an old woman came to me, held my hand, and said in broken English, "Thank you, doctor. God bless you." Her words touched my heart deeply. In that moment, I realized something powerful. English is not just a language for business or study. It's a bridge that connects hearts, saves lives, and creates opportunities. Today, I'm living my dream life. I work in a beautiful hospital, I travel the world, and I continue to help people every day. But I never forget where I came from. The small town in Germany, the little girl who dreamed big, and the parents who sold everything for her future. Whenever I feel tired or stressed, I look at an old picture of me holding my first English book. I smile and whisper, "Thank you, English. You changed my life." Now, I want to tell you something from my heart. If you're watching this video right now and you have a dream, maybe you want to be a doctor, engineer, teacher, pilot, artist, or business person, never let fear or language stop you. Don't say my English is bad. Don't say it's too late. Don't say I can't do it, because I was just like you. I made mistakes. I cried. I failed many times, but I never gave up. You can learn English. You can follow your dreams. You can become whoever you want to be. Start small. Learn one new word today. Watch English videos. Listen to English stories. Talk to people. Practice every day. Remember, English is not just a language. It's a key that can open the door to your future. And one day, you'll look back and say, I did it. I made it, just like I did. So my message to you is simple. Believe in yourself. Work hard. Never stop learning. And keep your dream alive. Because if I can learn English and become a doctor, you can too. Thank you for watching my story. If this video inspired you, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Share it with your friends who are learning English. Maybe my story will help them believe in themselves too. And always remember, every great journey begins with one small step. Take that step today, and one day, you'll live your dream.